Hello there, welcome to Nerd World Empire and the beginning of a new series on the Xindi. The Xindi are quite a big story to cover, so there's going to be quite a few episodes on this, so it's going to create its own playlist. This first episode, as you may know from clicking on it, as it's probably in the title, if I didn't put it in the title, I'm an idiot. It is on the Xindi Aquatic starship, their main cruiser that we saw in the mid-22nd century. Please like, share, subscribe. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of the Xindi arc in general from Season 3 of Star Trek Enterprise. So let's get into the ship. The ship was a massive starship. Huge. Its exact dimensions are unknown, but it's at least 5 times the size of an NX class starship. Some estimates put the vessel being approximately 1,800 meters in length, which, to put that in perspective for other shows and time periods where we know the sizings of the starships, that is close to, or is nearly 3 times the size of a Galaxy class starship. It's larger than a Romulan Dideritic class warbird by about 600 meters. Personally, I thought that estimate seemed a little excessive, but as we don't have exact dimensions, let's work with 1,800 meters. The ship is unusual in that it is controlled by the Xindi Aquatics. Their exact name is unknown, as is the name of any of the species. They were generally referred to as the Aquatics. Inside the ship, because of their aquatic nature, the vessel's interior spaces are arranged very differently than those of other starships. The vessel carries a lot more mass, which increases its drag, which actually means although it is a formidable starship, it is quite slow, because mass is not the same as weight, and yeah, powerful ship or not, it is slowed down by the amounts of water. There are areas inside the ship that can be pressurized to have normal M-class type atmospheres, or even variable atmospheres for other species to come inside the ship either as a guest or to discuss things with the Aquatics. The areas of the ship which the Aquatics themselves live in and operate are large, cavernous, open areas for the most part, as the Aquatics seem to like more open spaces and don't like corridors. They operate in a more three-dimensional space with control panels arranged all over the place, basically, allowing them to interface with the ship but also move around widely. The vessel itself is capable of sub-light propulsion but uses subspace corridors to move around. These are basically a type of propulsion unique to the Xindi, which, if you watched one of my previous videos recently where I babble on about how dumb the burn was, this is another example of a form of propulsion that existed. Now, these ships may have used dilithium. We don't know what their actual power cell was, but still, point stands. Now, this ship is unknown if it housed anything which we would consider to be a regular form of warp propulsion. They were never seen to use it. In fact, very few Xindi ships were ever seen to utilize conventional warp. So the ship, we're going to have to assume, did not have a warp core in the style used by the Klingons or humans. So it only used the corridors. It can be submerged based on the ship's aquatic-like design being relatively, as it would have a lot of water inside it, balancing its pressure on its hull for space and water atmospheric use would be good. Although it is a huge ship, the idea of it entering a planetary atmosphere is a little weird. We do see that many vessels built by the Xindi were capable of operating underwater, including insectoid ships and other such vessels. So it's plausible, based on the ship's marine-like design, it was capable of atmospheric entry and water penetration. That being said, it could just be a design aesthetic chosen by the designers of the ship in the first place. So again, that is hypothesis. The vessel does have a large area ventrally, approximately sort of the aft middle section of the ship, which is able to house other starships up to the size of an NX class vessel. So let's say about 200 meters in length, 150 meters in diameter approximately. Or maybe it's a more rounded area, it's 200 meters all round. That would mean it could house reptilian warships, or arboreal vessels, or again, NX class starships. It's unknown if the vessel carries its own support craft. Considering the Aquatic's dislike of confined environments, the vessel may have utilized drones or robot ships instead, but that is my hypothesis. We do see other species do that. The aquatics would obviously have to have spacesuits and environmental suits if they wanted to maneuver around an environment that was not native to them. Say they were going to negotiate or work with a species, as most other races were humanoid, and had atmospheric conditions, whether they were M-class or otherwise, that were not conducive to an aquatic. This would mean either the aquatics used other third parties as their negotiators or would have to move around in environmental suits. They were never seen to use transporter technology. In fact, the Xindi in general didn't seem to have that capability. So they must have either been able to land the ship itself or send down support craft of some description, shuttles or scout craft. It's unknown exactly what form these were in, and again it's only surmising that they probably had them. Considering the vessel was designed to carry other ships inside it, it seems weird that they wouldn't build their own support craft, but as we never saw them, don't know for certain. The vessel was known to, however, to be very heavily armed with an unknown form of particle energy weapon. Possibly a phaser, possibly a disruptor, possibly Polaron, make your own guess. Again, it's not known. It was a weapon that was more powerful and more efficient than the weapons used by the other Xindi, including the reptilians and the insectoids, who were known to be more belligerent. This weapon made short work of those ships. It had a more sustained, higher powered energy discharge than the weapons used by the other Xindi. It was a very powerful weapon. This may have been a reflection of the aquatics' nature. They were cautious but defensive and secretive, so they put, just like the others, they put a lot of effort into their weapons development. Also, the lumbering nature of the ship and its size might have made it an easy target for hostile enemies within the expanse, so having good defenses was prudent. Again, it's not known if the vessel carried torpedoes. It was never seen to use them. It may have done. Other Xindi had them. If the other Xindi had them, the aquatics certainly had access to the technology, but don't know if they actually had it or used it or with their starships. These vessels were developed at an unknown time, but were certainly in operation by the 2150s. The aquatics had relatively few of them, but they were the most powerful ship fielded by the Xindi for conventional starship operations. They are described as a cruiser, but it's unknown if that means they are a battleship or if they're just a large, heavily armed starship. The aquatics seem to be a generally non-hostile but belligerent power. So they're not as aggressive as some of the other Xindi, they're more restrained. These vessels simply may have been defiantly built rather than necessarily being a warship. And it wasn't my feeling that the vessel was a dedicated combat vessel like, say, the ships built by the reptilians or the insectoids. However, that being said, it was incredibly formidable and very powerful, and was basically feared by the other Xindi, because they knew that they didn't have anything one-on-one that could truly match it. Its only real weakness was its speed. We don't know how long these ships were in operation for, as after the incident with the attack on Earth and the phony war perpetrated by extra-dimensional beings who tricked the Xindi, and the near Xindi civil war that happened as a consequence, the Xindi did go into a long period of self-imposed exile. We do know eventually that Xindi would serve aboard Starfleet vessels. It's plausible that aquatics would have also served aboard ships, as we do know that ships like Galaxy-class starships had things like cetacean ops and areas aboard the ship that could carry large volumes of water. It's plausible, although, again, don't know, but my guess would be they do at some point. Some of them enlist. And there it is. I found these ships to be very beautiful design. They kind of remind me of a ship from Babylon 5. They kind of squint a little bit, they look a bit like a White Star, but a lot bigger. Because White Stars are about 600 meters, I believe. But yeah, it's a beautiful design, very elegant. You can definitely see the influences of other Xindi designs on it, and you can definitely see the sort of aquatic aesthetic of the Xindi aquatic species in the design elements. Basically, you can see the evolution that they've gone from probably marine type vessels and probably never having other types to having starships like this. It's a pretty cool ship, and the aquatics are an interesting species, so I will cover later in the series when I get to the actual races themselves. With that said, we're at the end of this video.
I just want to take this moment to thank you for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, please check out my social links in the description box below to Instagram and Twitter and others, and also is down there a link to my Patreon page where you can support this channel and the others as I try to grow this franchise and do this more regularly. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and bye bye.